Hello everyone and welcome to our Year 4 history lesson for Thursday. Okay, this week you have been looking at some myths and we're going to carry on learning about interesting myths for the rest of the week. So I'm going to share my screen with you. We have learned about a range of myths this week. You've looked at Theseus and the Minotaur and the myth of Odysseus and the Cyclops. But before we move on to our myth, I want you to be thinking about what a myth is. So, what is a myth? A myth is a traditional story that usually involves supernatural beings or events, so magical beings or magical mythical events. They often tell us about how people lived or how they thought a natural phenomenon happened. So, for the ancient Greeks, they might think about how the world works and create a myth to explain that. It is widely believed and spoken of, but it is actually false. And as you've seen in Myth Southwards videos, we know that myths were told in ancient Greece via speech or scripture, but they were mainly spoken about and spread around the different states. Today, we are learning about the myth of Medusa and the quest of Perseus, which I am so excited for. This is one of my favorite Greek myths, as you can see. Okay, so before we start, these are some of the characters who you are going to meet in this myth. So we've got Danae, Perseus's mother, the king of Argos, her father. Watch out for him. We've got Perseus. We've got Perseus's wife, Andromeda. We've got the Gorgons. The Gorgons. We've got the evil king of the island who wants to marry Danae. And we've got the Grey Sisters. We've looked a little bit at the Grey Sisters last term. I'm very excited about this. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the story, tell you the myth, and then we're going to look at our activity and what we can do. Okay, about Perseus. There was once a king of Argos who had a daughter, Danae. She was growing up and the king was growing old. He asked the oracle how he would die. Remember, we've spoken about the Delphic oracle, haven't we? The oracle in Delphi, she tells people the future in their prophecy. And the oracle told him that the son of his daughter, so his granddaughter, would cause his death. To prevent this prophecy coming true, he locked his daughter away in a prison made of brass. Brass is this metal here, it's quite golden and shiny. He locked her in a prison because he didn't want her unborn child to kill him. Day after day, she sat under the window in her prison cell and wondered why her father kept her in that lonely place and whether she would ever come and take her out. So she sat here, she doesn't even have a proper window, and her father's locked her in there. Time passed by, and Danae grew fairer every day, so she grew more and more beautiful. And by, she was no longer a child, but a tall and beautiful woman. The god Zeus, amid amongst the clouds, looked down and saw her and loved her. Remember, we've spoken about Zeus, he's the king of the gods. So he saw Danae and he loved her immediately. One day, Zeus visited Danae from the sky, and he visited the imprisoned girl often, disguised as a tall and handsome young man. They were married and had a son called Perseus. Danae's father began to think that the oracle's words might come true. Of course, now she has a son, and that is what the oracle said. She'd have a son, and the son would kill him. So, Danae and her son Perseus were put to sea in a wooden chest. So her father, because he was so scared that her son would kill him, he put them both in a chest in a wooden box and pushed them out to sea. The king thought that if they died together, the prophecy couldn't come true. However, they didn't die. After several days at sea, they drifted ashore on a distant island and were found by a kind man who sheltered, so he gave them a home, kept them safe, and cared for them for many years. Thank goodness. So they washed up onto some land, and a man look after them. The cruel king of the island wanted to marry the beautiful Danae, but of course she refused. He was cruel and nasty. When she refused, he plotted to send her son Perseus away in revenge. So he didn't like that Danae said, I'm not marrying you. So he sent his son away on a quest. He challenged Perseus to bring him the head of Medusa. She was one of 3 sisters with the bodies and faces of women, but with golden wings, brass claws when we spoke about brass, that metal that's golden, and snakes for hair. Anyone who looked at their faces instantly turned to stone. He knew Perseus would die trying to defeat the Gorgon. So to punish Danae, he's sending her son to go and defeat the Gorgon. He says, the only way your mum doesn't have to marry me is you go and kill the Gorgon Medusa. Certain. Without weapons or any idea of where to find Medusa, Perseus went to the shore to plan his quest. 2 mysterious people told him where to set off on his journey and that he must get directions from the Grey Sisters and collect 3 things from the Maidens of the West before he challenges Medusa. These people were the gods Athena and Hermes. Hermes, who was the god of messages, lent Perseus winged sandals to help him fly, and Athena gave him a polished shield to protect him. She's the goddess of wisdom. Perseus did as they said and flew to the Grey Sisters, using the winged sandals. These creatures were so old, they'd forgotten their own age. No one knew the age of these women. They were so old, they had grey hair, which is why they were called the Grey Sisters. And they also only had 1 eye and 1 single tooth between them. So they shared it, passing it back and forth from one another. Their eye gave them great wisdom, so they could see the future and they could help people. Tricking them by stealing their eye, Perseus made the old women tell him where to travel to find the Western Maidens. They were the next people he needed to see. Once more, Perseus put on his winged sandals and set off. When he arrived, he saw 3 maidens of the West. Perseus went forward and spoke to the maidens. Once they heard his mission, they willingly agreed to help him. They offered 4 things, not 3, as he thought, 4 things to help him kill Medusa. A sword, a shield, a magic pouch so he could put the head of Medusa in the pouch, and a cap of invisibility to stop anyone being able to see him. Once more, he flew off using the sandals to find Medusa and the Gorgon sisters. Perseus knew that he would be turned to stone if he looked at the Gorgons. Cleverly, using the shiny shield as a mirror, Perseus saw the reflection of the hideous snake-haired monsters whilst they slept. How intelligent! So instead of looking with his own eyes and risking being turned to stone, he used the reflection from the shield to see where they were, to look around the corner. Very clever. Very stealthily, which means sneakily, he went nearer with his back towards the monsters, always looking into his shield to see where to go, never looking directly at them. He drew his sharp sword and dashed quickly, struck a blow so sure, so swift, that the head of Medusa was cut from her shoulders, and the black blood gushed out like a river from her neck. Actually defeated Medusa using his intelligence and the weapons the Western Maidens had given him. As the blood ran from Medusa, the winged horse Pegasus was born. So out of the blood of Medusa the Gorgon, Pegasus, the winged horse, was born. You might remember then from the queens in Corinth, and they had the winged horse Pegasus on them. Perseus threw Medusa's head into his magic pouch and flew away with the speed of a lightning flash. Escaping under his invisibility cap, and with the help of his magic sandals, Perseus left the anguished, which means in pain, heartbroken, screams of Medusa's sisters behind him, and he made his way to safety. Pegasus, the winged horse, followed him. Another creature. As Perseus made his way home over the huge oceans, he came across a strange sight. He saw a beautiful girl chained to a rock by the seashore, and far away, a huge sea beast swimming towards her to devour her. Perseus could see the sea monster coming closer, so quick as a blink, he flew down. He took the Gorgon's head out of the magic pouch, held it up high, and you guessed it, he turned the beast to stone. How intelligent! Perseus was clever. The woman was called Andromeda, and her father was king of the land, which is a princess. As the pair talked, the king and queen and many people of the land came to see what was happening. As a reward for saving his daughter, the king agreed to let Perseus marry her. Forgetting his quest, Perseus stayed happily with Andromeda and her family for many months. So he forgot all about the reason he went on this journey. If you remember right back to the beginning of the myth, he went on this journey to help his mother because the king of the evil island wanted to marry his mother. So he went there to save her. I hope he remembers soon. Perseus wanted to go back to see his mother. Phew. The wicked king of that land had never ceased, never stopped trying to persuade Danae to become his wife, but she would not listen to him. At last, he found out that she would not be made to marry him, and he was furious. He declared that he would kill her. As Perseus and Andromeda came into town, they saw Perseus's mother fleeing, running away, and the king followed after her, intent on killing her. When Perseus saw the king rushing like a madman after his mother, he took the head of Medusa out from the magic pouch. Oh my goodness. Okay. I promised to bring you a present, and here it is, he cried. The king saw it and was turned to stone immediately, just as he stood with his sword uplifted and a terrible look of anger and passion on his face. He's been turned to stone. He looked into the eyes of Medusa and been turned to stone. Perseus, Andromeda, and Perseus's mother decided to go home to Argos, so originally where Perseus's mother was from. Now you might be thinking, what about your granddad Perseus? He's scared of you. He thinks you're going to kill him. Let's find out. The king, Perseus's grandfather, ran away. He was so scared of the prophecy, he didn't want to even come close to Perseus, thinking he would kill him. Everyone wanted Perseus to be the new ruler of Argos. They played games with neighbouring lands, so lands from all around Argos met up and they played some games. Perseus threw a quoit, which is just here. You've got to get it to land on the pole. However, as he threw it, it hit a man and killed him. Guess who the man was? His grandfather. The prophecy had come true. Perseus was overcome with grief. He had no wish to continue to be ruler of the kingdom. So he and Andromeda left the country and lived happily in a neighbouring kingdom of Mycenae for many years. Wow! So the oracle had seen this all the way from the beginning. And maybe if the grandfather hadn't been so cruel and hadn't made all this happen, maybe Perseus never would have killed him and become king of Argos. So, your job today is going to be two steps. There's going to be two assignments. The first assignment is comprehension. So I want you to think about everything that's happened. Think about why he was sent away at first. So obviously at the beginning of this story, we know that Danae's father thinks that her baby is going to kill him. So he puts them in a chest and sends them away. They wash up on a beach, but then an evil king wants to marry Danae. So he sends Perseus away to kill the Gorgons. Perseus kills the Gorgons and saves Andromeda. When he saves her, He goes back to Argos, helps his mother get rid of the evil king, and then he plays some games, eventually fulfilling the prophecy and killing his grandfather. So you need to think about the whole situation from the beginning to the end when answering these comprehensions. If you need to look back at the story, that is fine. The first question is, why did Perseus's grandfather throw Perseus and his mother into the sea? So think about what his grandfather thinks is going to happen if Perseus is allowed to live. Why did Perseus need to go on the quest? So why did he go on the quest? Not just because he wanted to kill Medusa, but why was he told to go? So think about the evil king. What happened if a living creature looked into the eyes of Medusa or another Gorgon? So what happened to them? And how did Perseus use his shield to help him kill Medusa, which I think is very intelligent and stealthy. Okay, and if you have got the differentiated task, for this one, I've got a lot of communicating print just to help you if you need it, and you're going to finish the red sentences. So you've got your question over here in the white box. Why did Perseus need to go on a quest to kill Medusa? This is the start of the sentence. Because a man wanted to marry his mom, kill him, or see Medusa. And all you'll do is finish off my red sentence. Same for here and for the third one. Okay? After that, we get to some exciting design work. Okay, so the next task is on the next page of your assignment and teams. And for this one, you are going to design an ancient weapon. We're going to design an ancient weapon to help Perseus slay or kill Medusa. And when we design that weapon, we're going to label it. Okay, you can tell me what materials it's made of, what magical powers it might have. Remember, in myths, we can use magical beings and magical things. And I've given you some ideas here of the weapon. You can make a sword, a shield, a helmet, a slingshot, which you can ping things with, maybe a hammer, a jacket. You can think of your own if you don't want to use these. Down here, I've got some ideas that you can label your design with adjectives, some verbs, and some other nouns to help you. So I decided to go for a slingshot. And I thought, do you know what I would do? I'd be too scared to do what Perseus did. But maybe you can have a slingshot and a tub of sleeping powder. So here's my tub of sleeping powder. So you'll draw it first, and then you need to label it. So this is my tub of sleeping powder down here. And what Perseus is going to do is put sleeping powder on the slingshot and fire it at the Gorgons. Then they're asleep, they can't move, and he can sneak in, their eyes are shut, and save the day. Okay, now my slingshot is going to be made out of wood, but I can think of an adjective to describe the wood. If I'm going to use it and hold it tight and pull, I need to make sure that wood is really, really strong and sturdy, really, that it can hold my strength. So some strong wood, maybe it could be from a magical tree that he's found. Maybe the Grey sisters could tell him about this magical tree. Okay, and my strap is going to be made of leather. It's going to be made of leather because that's quite flexible, so I can stretch it back and bend it. Okay, now we're going to draw arrows, so you can draw some more arrows to it. Maybe you want to color it in and label it. Okay, maybe you want to write a little section that tells me how you want it to be used. You might want yours to make your character invisible. You might, to also make them fall asleep, make it musical. So maybe it plays a lullaby that makes the Gorgons fall asleep. You might want to make some sandals that allow you to be silent. You might want to make a mask that shields your eyes so you can't see the Gorgons. You might want to make some reflective, you've got the adjective here, reflective materials to do what Perseus did with his shield, but maybe you could make something in his hand, or you could have a watch, you could use it like this. You can think about it. Maybe you want something that throws fire, maybe you want it to have some wings or some eyes, maybe you could create some more eyes so he doesn't need to look. You could create a disguise so you could look like a Gorgon and sneak in. Okay, so there's lots of different things. Maybe you could throw something, the hammer, and it has to return back to your hand. Okay, so there's lots of different ideas that you can use here. But that is the next thing for you to do. So you'll get a piece of paper, draw your design, label it for me, and email it to either me if you're in my class or Mrs. Southwood's email. Remember, it's Y for maple or Y for chestnut. Okay, and that is the end of our lesson. Thank you very much, guys, and have a lovely rest of your day. Bye.